Sometimes I think Cactus is about what someone would do for the things that they care about. Cactus is about power and the things that give people power and take power away. So it sort of changes for me, depending on the day.
That's good.
It's the story of John Kelly, a family man, trying to make some money, I guess. He sets out to do this job, which is against the law, to kidnap a guy and deliver him. So it's a pretty intense scenario.
It's about a guy being kidnapped and taken hostage and put in the car and driven across, the middle of nowhere, which is pretty much where we are now.
Cactus is a story of the length that a man will go to in order to protect and support his loved ones.
Well, if we make the other ones that angle as well, it'll be alright. I wanted it to be a story that was grounded in Australian culture and the landscape and everything like that.
Okay, so when I do it the first time, just slowly, and now just let it settle.
Once I cared for a character or the themes in the story, then it was very straightforward.
Yeah, it's sort of more of a flick, because that's where the... That's pretty good, isn't it? That's where that bit is. So.
It had to be small in the very beginning, it had to be cheap, and then the story came out.
Up, down. I read it in one session. I just sat down and I couldn't stop reading it. I was really intrigued to see where it was going, to see what was going to happen to John, to see exactly who John was.
Hello, sweetheart. Oh, you got me phoning me here. Why did I do that? Hello, sweetheart. What turned me on was the script. I found it fresh and original, and there was a voice behind it that I wanted to know about. That ended up being Jasmine. When I talked to her and met with her, I found that she added to that script. There was something fresh and original about her and intelligent.
Everybody, please, let's rehearse.
The journey, I've had a journey as being someone that's supported her, helped her get her movie up, and then had the opportunity to have a great little cameo to play in it.
I'll have one today and then tomorrow. Can you pass me the radio? Please.
That's it, that's the bottom line. You read something and on paper it looked like an exciting character to play.
I got a phone call from Jasmine asking me to come and help her make this movie that she'd raised $90,000 for, and she was going to use it to make the film Cactus. She'd written a script that we could do on a low budget, and why don't you come and help me out? Sure. And then she sent me the script and then I was hooked. Then I was in. We were so lucky to have Bryan come on board. I called him and immediately he was like, "Hello, mate. Now listen, about this script, it's great, isn't it?" I went, yeah. He said, "It's just fantastic. It's fresh, it's original, and, it could go a long way. So I'll come on board, I'll help, I'll executive produce, and we'll get $1 million for it."
I've been in it long enough to know that you can't make a movie on 90 grand. I actually said to her, look, this might be the best script you ever make. Why stuff it up?
And Jasmine and I filled out forms and we sent them off and we had interviews, we had phone interviews, and we got the money.
Well, John Kelly, this is your lucky day. It's your lucky day because tomorrow is my old lady's birthday.
When we first started the scene, to actually stay in the moment was a little difficult at times because it's Bryan Brown. He's a bloody legend. And I've got out of the car, he's pulled me up. Bryan Brown's playing this cop, and he's pulled me out and he's doing the scene, and I'm going, it's Bryan Brown.
It was sort of weird that Bryan Brown got involved. I wanted a powerful sort of figurehead, like a authoritative figure who spoke, I guess you can say, very Australian in a way. And when I wrote it, I wrote with his voice in my head. So then when we came to putting the script out, that's why he sort of got sent the script, because it was more of a, well, why not, you know.
Turn over.
Working with Brian was such a great experience, because from the very first beginning, when he committed, and he really committed, that was the main feeling I had, that he really committed to that project. To work on set with him was really great as well.
And he, in his own way, is a very good cinematographer who's developing and obviously wants to be as good a cinematographer as he can be.
This is a project that Florian and I have been working on together for a very long time. It's not like you hand it over to a DP in pre-production and say this is what it's about.
Travis, can I see you in your driving position?
By the time we were shooting, we'd been out to the locations, some of them 3 times already.
Stand by to move out.
There was a lot of things that had been talked about so many times before that we didn't have to go into again.
The idea is you sort of get out and then have a look around.
The character of John sets out on this journey because he's motivated by something that is so important to him.
Started smiling at the end.
So did I.
The casting process was definitely very important, because when you have a two-hander, if the two hands don't work, you just sink very quickly. What we'll do is we'll shoot you driving up last, because we'll be looking that way. Travis sort of carried in under his skin a burden that John has to carry. That's sort of what we saw in the audition, that Travis carries something underneath him, or it feels like he carries something underneath him that could be quite complex.
We'll leave it all open.
Yeah.
Into the bush.
Yeah. Someone like John has to have the potential to be dangerous, as well as the potential to be open and loving, and that's sort of what Travis had.
In terms of the story, his wife's terminal, so that's pretty much what is driving him at the moment, and he wants to show her a bit of a time before she leaves him. We don't get to know him outside the situation. I mean, we get snippets of what he's like, possibly with his family, in moments as the film progresses and we see more of his humanity. I mean, John's doing a job, so he's not showing much.
Jazz was very particular about who she wanted, and we did a lot of, really went into it, saw a lot of people, and these 2 boys were given the shot.
It's time for us to take a moment to remember who we are and why we're here.
I think Travis and David are each being able to create their own John and Eli. Yeah, these 2 boys have to hold the movie. They better be able to do it. So far, it's looking all right. But, it's a big ask to be the lead. You've never been a lead in a movie, and 2 guys are going to hold a movie all the way.
And we are going to shoot a profile of the tape being ripped off by John. We will stay where we are.
Eli was sort of a combination of a couple of people that I know. You come across a lot of people that can talk, especially in the film industry, that can talk their way around a lot of things. And he's sort of that guy, but with a gambling background.
If it's ripped from here, maybe then he could pull it. It's just going to be around and around.
Jasmine was very specific about the sort of person that she was looking for.
And pull on it, pull on the rope.
We met David, and it was just like, wow, who is this guy?
You have to get him to take it off, basically, however you can. David is smart and charming. He made the character charming. It would have been very easy to make Eli a kind of shark, but David was able to bring out the admirable part of Eli's character.
It should be something like you just start nodding your head, so that it's because it's got to be.
It's fairly enigmatic sort of character. He's a very street savvy, street smart sort of guy that has built his own pseudo empire, usually through living off the misfortune of others. gambling, just a typical shyster, really, but with a good heart.
And make sure you take care of it before it becomes a proper problem. You can't put your tongue out. David and Travis had to trust each other a lot because of the physical things that they had to do when they had to work together in terms of that. And they had to play off each other a lot.
Those two characters and those two performances wouldn't have been able to be achieved if we were sitting in a very spacious and luxurious environment. Being trapped in that car gives you so much underlying tension, so much underlying business going on that it can't help but bubble up in the way that you react and respond. Bonnie is a character in the film, and a beautiful character in the film. It's an inanimate object that actually it becomes something so much more, so it's something that has its own personality. Now, everyone on the film set loved Bonnie. I hated her because I'm strapped to the back of her with my hands tied, and everything inside Bonnie reminds me of incarceration.
Stay his mouth, Florian. Just go on his hands. Okay, cut.
Sometimes we took the seats out, and there were 5 people, like focus puller, Jasmine, sometimes sound, plus the actors, plus me inside that car.
How was it?
Every time someone got in that car to start it, my heart would start racing because I just think, this is it, she's dead. Bonnie, she's not gonna start.
I've liked films where characters are made out of objects other than people. That's sort of where Bonnie came from. Cars, I think, are very important in Australia. There's no question about that in Australian culture and everything like that.
I'm going to try and buy it at the end of the shoot. I want the car. I'll put an air conditioner and a better stereo.
Yeah, it's a good car. There was a lot of demand for it.
I might see if I can just get it as a present. Something tells me that's not going to happen just quietly. Hi to Roscoe. You there, Roscoe?
And then all of a sudden, you know, Tomo arrives in the form of Shane Jacobson.
He's the one that spins the big wheels down the open road, you know, as the truck drivers say. He's the one that, you know, stays on the black stuff doing $1.20 down the road. I think that's how they word it. I was trying to give you all the big truck talk there. He's a nice bloke. He's the kind of guy, you know, that you'd meet, I guess if you went to any country pub, you know, he's the kind of guy you could sit down beside and have a beer with, and conversation would come pretty quickly, you know. You don't wind up for the role of Tomo, you wind down. You know, he sits in a truck, you know, his office is his rig, and it's where he feels most comfortable. I think Tomo would feel more comfortable in a rig on his own than he would in a room full of people.
It's sort of hard in retrospect to put someone like Shane Jacobson in when in between all this sort of drama, because you have to kind of bring it back eventually so that it doesn't become two different pictures. So you be there when he's there, and as he comes in, go to that.
We only had a very short scene together, essentially, and it's him dying. But I was laughing the whole time.
Just trying to look like a truckie there, Tom. We're right.
Massive heart, great actor, incredible comedian.
Well, it enters out there, goes in here, comes out there.
Well, I said, do you want to come and do the shoot today, but I don't realize what they meant was they were going to shoot me. This actually isn't part of the film, this is just how you get treated here.
Dave and I putting Shane Jacobson in a Kenworth truck after he's been shot. When we got him halfway up, I thought, shit, someone's got to get underneath him. So I'm going to climb up into that cabin quick smart.
Yeah, I had my head buried in his anus.
Come on! Just pull him!
It's an experience. Yeah. Backdrop here, when we got here, there was none of this. This was just all desert. So they've done an amazing job. They got here this morning, all these trees they've put in, and this mountain wasn't here.
The landscape itself, which is so beautiful, and that's what this weird sort of juxtaposition between the beauty of it, but also the incredible isolation of it. And so when I go for my run, when I leave Bonnie and sort of run away, what should be, if I was to be strolling along those roads, looking out, I'd be thinking, wow, what an amazing place. But it's actually one big prison.
When I was growing up, the first thing we did when we were old enough was get our driver's license, and in a way, driving or cars were a source of freedom. So to drive into something like the Australian landscape and have your freedom taken away from you, I thought was interesting.
This is about being in a land. They haven't got anything around you that can help you. These two boys are just travelling. There's nothing that they can rely on that has to do with their culture.
Being in something so wide and so open, but to go into something that can become so claustrophobic, I thought was interesting.
They say if a tree falls in a forest, there's anyone here. If a tree fell over here, you probably wouldn't even see it, let alone hear it.
That sort of dusty, red, dry, parched land is pretty much, akin to jail.
It's a very male movie, and it's a car, and it's written and directed by a woman. That's, you wouldn't necessarily see it that way. I think what happens is that her female sensibility over the top of this very male thing gives it an essence or a soul that is possibly what makes it original.
Is this about the footy tab?
Jasmine comes from a background as a camera assistant, so from the technical side. She's extremely aware of how things work, and she's amazingly conscious about composition of framing and everything, which is fantastic. You set up a shot, she said, yeah, it's good. Or she said, no, I don't want it, which I think makes it easier because you actually know what you're dealing with.
It's a beautiful thing about being a writer-director, is that she's so onto the script and she's so in the script that you can trust her. And I actually probably learnt more from Jasmine than I have done from any other director. Never a time when I thought that she wasn't there to serve the film and to serve the story.
I trusted them. Once we got into it, we went through a rehearsal period so that we all sort of knew where each of the characters was, and then there would be sort of small adjustments made to how the scene should be played.
I didn't mention that in the last film I broke my leg in half because I was going too hard.
On a few times out there, Jazz was great. She was able to come up to me and just say the right thing.
And action.
The film takes place over 4 days, and over 4 days you start to see a lot of anxiety, a lot of frustration, and a lot of tit for tat going on between them.
Have a look.
Neither of them want to be there. As an actor, it's a real test and weird sort of pleasure to play someone that's quite animated, to play someone that's quite outward in appearance and in the way they operate.
Stop! What are you doing?
For an actor, that's a great thing to want to play, because it just gives you so much to play, it gives you so many moments, so many levels.
He just caned himself, He really threw himself into the role, and to the point where Jasmine was like, now listen, this is what you're going to do, but I don't want you to hurt yourself, okay?
Turn over.
And we needed an actor that was going to be able to take a bit of punishment. And he took it, Dave. Dave was great.
He's a man that speaks everything that he thinks, and he's a man that acts very impulsively and instinctively.
It's amazing to see two normal people take words on paper and put them in their heart and saw them, you know, at times tear themselves apart with it.
Travis is an amazing actor, and he gets so deeply involved in the character.
I'm going to put a remote control unit in the back pocket here. You won't get damage there, and you won't fall and it won't hurt you either.
Now, as we put a little bit of time in between the shoot, you start to think about the other elements. But I find I just need to keep reading it and go deeper into the world. The further we get into the film, it gets harder to do the job because he's dealing with a human being in the backseat. And essentially he's a good person. So the job gets harder to do.
Pretty loud, is it? Oh, it's really like just a pop, isn't it? Yeah, look, out here in the middle of nowhere, it's not that loud. Yeah. But I'm 35 years old, and I'm half Jacobson doing this most of my life. Yeah, right. Do you want that?
He's like an Australian man, you know, the type of hard-working bloke that John had to be. That's who Travis carried with him.
We just might want a bit of makeup.
They took the things on to an amazing point at times. As long as they kind of were emotionally okay, it was satisfying for them, you could sort of tell.
Jack's responsibilities were a large area. He's fairly enigmatic. You feel that he plays by his own rules and sets his own justice and his own like how he administers justice in such a big area.
Your hand and firearms all right.
Jack is an agent of justice, and he performs that justice as he sees fit.
You just use your own body to support it?
Yeah. So what do you reckon? You reckon I'm going to be kneeling down? What do you want?
We've got a rock.
The cop was sort of fun to write. If you know that he carries a voice like Bryan Brown, that's half of it.
I'm about to shoot and then I have shot. They're going to be the two things.
You can just sit back and listen to what he says.
Basic sort of like, I can do that here.
I think that's much better. So this one we're looking this way, we'll probably catch this way.
I tried to keep it simple, basically, because it was my first film.
David Lyons will run up, he'll hop in, he'll start the engine, and he will spin the car around as safely as possible.
It's not Mad Max or anything
No, well that's...
You just get in, turn the car around.
Okay,
all right?
3.10. But you don't want to hand brake.
I don't want to...
Okay.
I wanted to be in control of as much of it as I could. That's sort of why there's really two main characters and only a few additional characters.
Jasmine is just working out how to give you the comments.
You seem to be happy to change anything else in the script.
There is a spiritual aspect on it. I think it gives it a certain depth that you're not ready for, in a way, as you go along in the movie.
We were tempted to go for that roughness of the image as well. We didn't want to have the landscape look too beautiful and too dominant.
We won't be on him, we'll be on Travis. It's just to give Travis an eye line for a return.
But that then would be broken with extreme fast movements and accelerated movements and a pretty quick cut in a scene right after that. The style we developed, or the way of storytelling, was that sometimes you would be sitting on a shot for maybe even several minutes, like on a bonnet mount, because those two guys sitting there it's almost like a theatre stage.
Can you do the line? Can you record sound with all this, David?
If you put it between my arms like that, I can bring it to my face.
Jasmine and I agreed that the focus has to be on the performance of those two actors.
Travis? Come on in.
We shot this now on Sony 900, so on HD.
Roll camera.
For the director and also for the actors, it's a great opportunity to just keep rolling.
And action.
As we were shooting, it actually happened quite a lot of times. Like they started the scene and halfway through they jumped a line or whatever and they said, oh, can you just start again? And on film, after 4.5 minutes, especially inside a car with small max, you would have to cut. And there we kept rolling. There were several moments and I was watching that monitor and totally forgot about where I am, and you just see that picture and it's like watching a film and forgetting about that you're actually just making it, and that are perfect moments.
That would be a wrap on Travis McMahon. 2 is that would be a wrap on David Lyons. Thank you very much. 1 is that's a wrap on Bonnie. 4th one is without those 3 we don't have a movie, so that's a wrap of principal photography on Cactus. Well done, everyone. Well done.
I've been blessed with the people that have been involved. I think that I've been very lucky to be able to work with people that I trust, down to the entire crew, the actors, everybody. I think that's the biggest blessing that the film has had.
Each opportunity you get to work on a good project is quite humbling. Good actors playing good characters in a good script, you know. Makes it easy, doesn't it?
It's been fantastic, and just some great shots there. You know, with the landscape and with you know, Dave and Trav's good work, and you know, we'll see how my work goes.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a pity I had to die. But that's just one of the risks of being in this business. Tell you what's going to be reflected in the invoice is this blood on my personal ring. I've just realised how weird that sounded.
Low budget filmmaking is fun, but it's also unbelievably tough. You haven't got a single problem arises, you can't really spend money on it, you know. And that's stimulating, but it's also tough. It's tough, you know. When your back's against the wall, you got nowhere to go. It's really tough. What do? Cut something out of the script, change the whole direction of what you're doing. A rainstorm comes down, you've got to shoot in it. I mean, it might not match with it, so your back's against the wall in it. But it also means that it means all you got to sort of go in boots and all and have a bloody go, and you know, that's good too. You wouldn't want to do it every day of the week, let me tell you. But every now and again it's good.